It was in July 2017, at the end of the fight, and actually it was a couple of days after the official announcement that Mosul had been liberated, but there was still fighting going on. It really, really was difficult to get in, but I'd found a way in for a couple of hours that day, near to the front line of the fighting that was still going on. That was this tiny area in the old city where the last kind of ISIS members and some civilians, probably a lot of their family members, were cornered. Some of the men from the unit I was with brought in this man who was apparently carrying the boy when they found him and had come out of this area. But the strange thing was, he said he didn't know who the boy was. He just found him, you know, on the street on his own. He picked him up because he wanted to save him, and the soldiers didn't really believe his story. And even the guy, when he was telling it, like, had a kind of smile on his face. It was as if he didn't really believe it himself. And they immediately presumed that he was an ISIS member and had just picked up the boy to use as a human shield, because they probably would have shot him, you know, if he tried to come out on his own. So they took him away, and then they had this boy that they didn't know anything about, who didn't speak because he was very young, probably 2 or 3 years old, and he was clearly, you know, shell-shocked and traumatized after what he'd gone through. And so they didn't really know what to do with him, and the commander said one of his men would take care of the boy. But before, you know, that happened, they took his clothes off, because he was wearing these like really tattered, dirty rags, and he was filthy himself. So they took his clothes off and washed him right there, you know, just on the edge of the front line. And that's when I took this picture, moments after they'd washed him and were caring for him, and he kind of finally closed his eyes and just rested on the soldier's shoulder. It was a really poignant scene, because, you know, these guys were battle-hardened, you know, fighters, and had been fighting up until that moment. And like, for a second, like 20 of them put down their guns and were just doting over this kid, and to see the kid, you know, finally find some peace and rest on his shoulder, it was a very powerful moment.